10 R&B groups, and in every single case, one person, not always the front man, not always the one whose name was on the album, but the person, the one who made the music feel the way it did. And then one day, for one reason or another, that person was gone. So what do? You keep going. Tonight, we find out what that costs. Number 10, New Edition. They weren't just a boy group, they were 5 kids from the Roxbury Projects in Boston who took raw talent and pure hunger and turned it into something that rewired what R&B could sound like in the 1980s. Candy Girl in 1983 made them stars. Cool It Now? Mr. Telephone Man? They had the choreography, the harmonies, the look, and front and center of all that energy, the most viscerally exciting thing on that stage was Bobby Brown. Bobby was the one who pushed, who moved differently, who made the crowd lean forward and wonder what he was going to do next. And for a group built around a clean, wholesome teenage image, that energy was always going to create tension eventually. Here's what most people don't know about how the story ended. Bobby didn't walk. He was voted out. December 1985. The other 4, Ricky Bell, Michael Bivins, Ronnie DeVoe, Ralph Tresvant, sat down and voted Bobby Brown out of the group he helped build. The label was pushing. Management was pushing. The missed shows, the escalating conflicts, the microphone he threw at Bivins during a performance. It had been building for a long time. And here's what happened next. Both sides won. New Edition continued as a quartet, brought in Johnny Gill a couple years later, and If It Isn't Love became one of the biggest things they ever released. Bobby went and made Don't Be Cruel in 1988, My Prerogative, Every Little Step. One of the best-selling R&B albums of the decade, the man became a bona fide superstar, bigger, some would argue, than New Edition itself. So what do you do with a split where both parties come out ahead? Here's what I keep coming back to. Years later, Michael Bivins sat down and said, "It was kinda wrong for us to do it." More than 2 decades after the fact, and Bobby, who has said many things about that chapter over the years, has his own complicated feelings about it too. Sometimes the loss isn't about who wins or who loses. Sometimes it's just about what you could have built together, and what you'll never know because you didn't. Number 9, En Vogue. Let me be straight with you about En Vogue. A lot of people know the hits. Fewer people know what it actually took to hold that group together, and what it cost when one of them finally left. 4 voices: Terry Ellis, Cindy Herron, Maxine Jones, Dawn Robinson. And here's something most people don't think about. This group was designed. 2 producers in Oakland, Denzel Foster and Thomas McElroy, built En Vogue almost like an architectural project. They wanted 4 distinct voices that could blend into one unmovable sound. 4-part harmony that could go from silky to confrontational without losing the thread. And then the women made it something the producers never could have planned. By 1992, En Vogue owned R&B. My Lovin', You're Never Gonna Get It was everywhere. Free Your Mind was something else entirely. Aggressive, political, layered with conviction.
You gotta make the sacrifice. Somebody's gotta.
Four women who could harmonize like a choir, hold the camera like veterans, and outsell almost everyone else on radio. They weren't just good, they were untouchable.
Love-making, heartbreaking, soul-shaking.
Now, Dawn Robinson was the alto, the foundation, the voice at the bottom of the chord that made everything above it feel stable.
We can make it if we try. For the
If you've ever really listened to an En Vogue harmony, the full thing, not just the melody, and felt that weight underneath that made the sound complete, that was Dawn. Not always the loudest in the room, but pull her out and the whole structure shifts. In 1996, Don't Let Go, Love was massive, one of their biggest records in years. En Vogue was back at the very top, and then Dawn Robinson was gone. 1997, financial disputes, creative tensions that had been building for a long time. She felt the arrangement wasn't equal. Just like that, the quartet became a trio. They released EV3 without her. Still strong vocally, still recognizable. But if you've listened to both eras back to back, you know, something moved. The architecture isn't quite the same. Dawn tried solo work, joined Lucy Pearl for a moment. Neither chapter gave her what En Vogue had, and En Vogue kept going. Different configurations, reunion runs, but that specific sound, four voices locked together, no gap anywhere. You can't rebuild that. Not exactly. And whether Dawn made the right call walking out, I'll let you decide. Real talk. Only 9% of you are subscribed. That hurts. We're spending hours digging through archives, fact-checking every detail, bringing these stories back to life. And if you're watching this far, you clearly care. So hit subscribe. It's free and takes 2 seconds. Now, to my subscribers, barely any of you have joined the membership. And honestly, that stings even more. You know the work we put in. You keep coming back. If these videos have ever made you feel something, if this music means something to you, join the membership. It's $1 coffee a month, and it's the only way we keep this going. Let's build this together. All right, back to it. Number 8, Boyz II Men.
Play with my mind.
You know Boyz II Men. Of course you do.
How could you love me, leave me and never?
End of the Road, I'll Make Love to You, On Bended Knee. These songs lived inside of weddings, graduations, and slow drives home for most of the 1990s.
Before it's only your first time.
If there is a slow dance in your memory from that decade, from any party, any prom, any quiet evening, there is a real chance Boyz II Men was playing. And at the bottom of all of it, literally the bottom, in terms of frequency, was Michael McCary. He was Mike Bass, the bass, the deep voice you felt before you consciously heard it.
Baby, but that's all right. I love you anyway. And I'm still gonna.
He was the one doing the spoken word at the close of End of the Road, that low, warm, aching voice pulling the song into the floor as it faded out. You know the moment. And if you're nodding right now, you're not alone. In 2003, he was gone. The official word was back problems, health issues, vague enough to not raise too many questions. Most people accepted it and moved on. Boyz II Men kept performing as a trio. And then the real story began. Michael McCary had been living with multiple sclerosis since his early 20s. It started as back spasms, subtle, manageable. He kept performing, kept showing up, through the peak years, through the tours, through the recordings. He managed it with medication and kept the diagnosis private from almost everyone, including his bandmates. Doctors eventually told him there was a nerve near his sciatica locked in place. One wrong step and paralysis was a real possibility. He stepped away in 2003 and said nothing specific to the public. He carried that alone. For 13 years.
Said we'd be forever.
In 2016, he finally sat down and told the whole truth on television. And what came out wasn't just a health disclosure, it was grief. If I had to sum up what I got from my brothers in Boyz II Men, I would have to say betrayal, a broken bond. We don't even talk. Stay with me on this. A man is quietly losing his body. He loses the career he built his entire adult life around. And then he loses the brothers he built it with. Boyz II Men is still one of the great vocal groups in this music. They still sound incredible as a trio. But that bass, that specific weight Mike Bass put underneath those songs, has been missing for over 20 years. And he's been out there carrying something most of the people who love that music still don't fully know. Number 7, The Temptations. Let's talk about what it meant to be David Ruffin.
I've got a sweeter song.
It meant being the lead voice on My Girl, one of the most recognized songs in American music history. That voice, raw, gritty, aching in a way that smoother voices couldn't reach. He was in his early 20s when he stepped into that microphone, brand new to the group, and from the moment that song hit, the Temptations were never going to be the same. The Temptations in 1964 already had something, but when David Ruffin took over as lead vocalist, the group transformed into something else entirely. Ain't Too Proud to Beg. Beauty is Only Skin Deep. I Wish It Would Rain. These weren't just Motown hits. These were recordings that changed what R&B could be, how close it could get to real pain and still be on the radio. How gritty a voice could sound inside an orchestra arrangement and still hold together. Here's where the story breaks. By 1967-1968, David Ruffin was watching what was happening around him at Motown. He saw other artists getting their names out front. He felt the gap between who the public came to see, him, the face, the voice, and who held the power. He wanted top billing. David Ruffin and the Temptations. Berry Gordy said no. The group said no. The arguments escalated. The missed concerts got more frequent. And in June 1968, right at the absolute peak of what the Temptations were doing, he was fired. Dennis Edwards stepped in. And the Temptations didn't just survive. They moved into psychedelic soul with Norman Whitfield. Cloud 9, Papa was a Rolling Stone, won Grammys, stayed relevant into the early 1970s. But David Ruffin spiraled. He had early solo success. My Whole World Ended was a top 10 hit in 1969. But the drugs deepened their hold. The money came and went. He'd show up at Temptations concerts, hoping to find his way back on stage, just looking for the thing he'd lost. On June 1, 1991, David Ruffin died of a drug overdose in Philadelphia. He was 50 years old. 2 years before that, he had been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame with the Temptations. He was there, he walked in, and then he was gone. Some of y'all heard My Girl for the first time at a very specific moment, a very specific place. You already know which one. Number 6, the OJs. I need you to understand what Philadelphia International Records was in the early 1970s. It was the center of the soul universe. Kenny Gamble and Leon Huff had built something that matched Motown in ambition and surpassed it in social consciousness. Lush, politically aware R&B that spoke directly to what Black America was carrying after the Civil Rights era. And the OJs were at the absolute heart of it. Eddie Levert, Walter Williams, William Powell, 3 men from Canton, Ohio, who'd been singing together since they were teenagers in 1958. By 1972, Backstabbers had announced them. By 1973, Love Train went to number 1 on the Hot 100, For the Love of Money in 1974. If you've ever heard those bass strings and that piano come in and felt something move in your chest before a single word was sung, that was the OJs in their prime. That was William Powell's era. In 1975, William Powell was diagnosed with cancer, colon cancer, advanced. And here's the part that stays with me. He kept going. He kept performing with the group when his health allowed it. He didn't ask them to pause. He didn't ask them to slow down. He showed up until the disease made showing up impossible. He stopped touring in 1976. He died on May 26, 1977. He was 35 years old. At the peak of what those records were doing for everyone who loved them. The group brought in Sammy Strain from Little Anthony and the Imperials. They continued, had more hits, kept going. But here's what came out later. William Powell's family eventually learned that Philadelphia International had allegedly been withholding his royalties after his death. His sisters found out decades later, through an attorney's letter, that substantial sums were owed to his estate. He died without ever knowing that money was coming. A man who kept showing up when most people would have stopped, who gave everything he had to music that outlasted him, and who never got to benefit from what that music built. If you've ever watched someone give past the point where they had anything left to give, you know what kind of person that is. And you know they deserve better than what they usually get. Number 5, Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes. Here's something about Teddy Pendergrass that might genuinely surprise you. He didn't start out as a singer, he was a drummer. The drummer for a group called the Cadillacs. Harold Melvin, who had been leading the Blue Notes since the 1950s, spotted him on the road in the late 1960s and brought him in, just to keep the rhythm section together. But Teddy could sing, And once Harold Melvin heard that baritone, the weight of it, the grit, the heat underneath the warmth, everything shifted. Teddy became the lead vocalist, and the Blue Notes, who had been working for over a decade without a signature sound, finally had one. By 1972, they were on Philadelphia International with Gamble and Huff. If You Don't Know Me By Now went top 5 on the Hot 100. The Love I Lost, Wake Up Everybody, Bad Luck.
So excited when I come home a little late at night.
These were records that people didn't just play, they carried. Songs that attached to specific moments in specific lives and stayed there. And Teddy Pendergrass sang every one of them. Here's where the tension enters.
That we've been through.
Harold Melvin's name was on the marquee, but Teddy was the face. Teddy was who people came for. Fans were buying tickets to hear that voice, not because Harold Melvin was standing in front of the group.
You should understand me like I understand.
And by 1975, 1976, Teddy wanted recognition that matched the reality. Co-billing his name alongside Harold's, Harold Melvin said no, so Teddy left, and Gamble and Huff went with Teddy.
Between right and wrong.
Philadelphia International kept the solo artist and let the group go. Harold Melvin held the name, brought in a new lead vocalist named David Ebo, and kept recording.
If you don't know me, baby.
They had one more modest R&B hit in 1977 with Reaching for the World. After that, the commercial momentum stalled. They never recaptured what they had.
Now, baby, I know the difference.
Teddy Pendergrass, meanwhile, released 5 consecutive platinum albums as a solo artist after leaving. 5 in a row, a record for any artist at the time. And I'll be honest, I don't know how to fully judge Harold Melvin. He built the infrastructure. He discovered Teddy. He organized 20-plus years of work that gave Teddy a platform. And then he refused to share the spotlight he'd created with the man who was filling it. And it cost him everything he'd built. Harold Melvin kept performing until his death in 1997. Teddy Pendergrass survived a catastrophic car accident in 1982 that left him paralyzed from the chest down and kept recording from his wheelchair for years.
I trust in you as long as we've been together.
2 men who built something together. Neither one of them ever got to know what the other version of the story could have looked like.
So excited when I come home a little late at night.
Number 4, the Commodores. By 1982, everyone could see what was coming with Lionel Richie. He'd already written Lady for Kenny Rogers, number 1 on every chart for weeks. He'd already recorded Endless Love with Diana Ross, one of the best-selling singles in history at that point. He was becoming the kind of songwriter and performer that transcends category, transcends era.
I wanna be high.
The whole world was tilting in his direction, and all of that was still happening while he was technically a Commodore. The Commodores started at Tuskegee University in Alabama. 6 college students who formed a band, caught the right eyes, and ended up on Motown, opening for the Jackson 5 before most of them had a real plan. By the late 1970s, they were one of the biggest groups in the country. 3 Times a Lady, Easy Like Sunday Morning, Sail On, Still, all of those, Lionel's voice, Lionel's songwriting.
I'm not happy when I try to fake it.
He was the warmth, the ballad, the reason people put their foreheads together on the dance floor and meant it. In 1982, he officially left, and the music industry assumed it was finished. replace Lionel Richie. He was about to give the world All Night Long and Hello, and a solo career that would make him one of the defining artists of the 1980s. What were the remaining Commodores supposed to do with that kind of shadow? Here's what they did. They brought in J.D. Nicholas, a British vocalist formerly with the band Heatwave, and in 1985 they released Night Shift, a tribute to Marvin Gaye and Jackie Wilson, both of whom had recently died.
I'm easy like Sunday morning.
Night Shift went to number 3 on the pop charts, number 1 R&B, and it won the Commodores their first Grammy Award ever. Best R&B performance by a duo or group, without Lionel Richie. And here's what gets me about this.
Yeah. That's why I'm
The Commodores actually objected to releasing Night Shift as a single. They didn't believe in it. The song they didn't want to put out gave them their biggest honor. They never had another major hit after that. But they're still out there performing.
why I'm
3 original members carrying a legacy that spans 2 completely different eras. And if you've ever been in a room when Brick House comes on and watched what happens to that room, you understand why some things don't require a complete lineup to still do what they were built to do.
I'm easy like Sunday morning. Yeah.
Number 3, Earth, Wind, and Fire. I want you to think about what Maurice White actually built. Before Earth, Wind, and Fire, he was a session musician, played drums with the Ramsey Lewis Trio, skilled, precise. But he had a vision that went beyond technical skill, a sound that would weave together funk and jazz and gospel and African rhythms and pop in a way nobody had fully assembled before. He founded Earth, Wind, and Fire in 1969 in Chicago. By the time the 1970s were done, that band had changed the architecture of American popular music. Shining Star hit number 1 in 1975, September, Boogie Wonderland, Let's Groove. If you've ever been at a party, any age, and felt that thing when the horns hit and everyone in the room lifted without deciding to lift, that's Maurice White's design. He built the feeling, the whole room, every time. In 1992, he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. The symptoms had started quietly in the late 1980s. Tremors in his hands, a fatigue that went beyond what the road normally asks of you. He kept touring for years after the diagnosis, managing it with medication. He was traveling with Earth, Wind, and Fire as his body gradually changed around him. Then in 1994, he stepped away from the stage. His body couldn't give the music what the music required, and he kept the diagnosis private for another 6 years. Philip Bailey and Verdine White, Maurice's own brother, held the group together. They recorded, they toured, they kept the music in front of people who needed it. In 2000, the band was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and Maurice finally told the public about the Parkinson's. He'd been living with it for 8 years by then. "I just got tired of not talking about it," he said. He died on February 4th, 2016, peacefully, in his sleep, at home in Los Angeles. He was 74 years old. 11 days later, Earth, Wind, and Fire received a Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award. And here's what I think about when I hear those songs. Not just the music, the man who heard it before anyone else did. Who stayed involved in the business side of the group even when his body wouldn't let him be on stage? Who spent his last years still carrying the architecture of the music in his mind, even as everything else slowly became harder? Some people build something that outlives them in the best possible way. Maurice White did that. But the cost of watching it happen, I don't think anyone outside that family truly knows what that was like to watch. September is still perfect. Boogie Wonderland still hits the same way it did in 1979. He built the room. And every time those horns come in, somewhere in the back of your mind, if you know exactly who should be standing there. Number 2, Zapp. If you were at a house party in the early 1980s, black neighborhood, any city, Ohio to California to Atlanta, you know the sound I'm about to describe. That voice, electronic, buzzing, unmistakable, filtered through a talk box in a way that made the mechanical feel human and the human feel otherworldly. Like somebody figured out how to give a machine a heartache. That was Roger Troutman. And that sound was Zapp. Zapp was a family band out of Dayton, Ohio. Roger and his brothers, Larry, Lester, Terry, building something together in the late 1970s that became foundational to both R&B and early hip-hop. More bounce to the ounce. Computer Love, I Can Make You Dance. Do Wah Diddy. Ice Cube once said, Zapp's music was the first hip-hop record he ever heard. That's how deep into the foundation this sound went. Roger Troutman was Zapp, in a way most group members never are. That talkbox voice wasn't one element of the music, it was the identity of the music. Without it, you have a different group entirely. And then in 1996, Roger stepped into something that introduced him to a whole new generation. Tupac, Dr. Dre, California Love. You know that song, that swirling, bouncing talkbox voice lifting the whole track into another dimension. That was Roger Troutman. 3 years before his death, he touched millions of people who didn't even know his name yet. Here's what happened next. On the morning of April 25th, 1999, outside the Troutman family recording studio in Dayton, Roger was shot multiple times by his brother Larry. The motive, as best as investigators were ever able to piece together, was a years-long dispute over money, over management, over how two brothers had divided what they built together. Larry Troutman was found dead in his car a few blocks away, a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Both men, same morning. Roger was 47 years old. Zapp has continued. Other members of the Troutman family have kept the name alive and kept performing. But that talkbox voice, that specific sound that existed nowhere else, that Roger invented and owned and made irreplaceable, it ended outside a recording studio in Dayton in 1999. You know what's worse? There's a version of the story where that doesn't happen. Where Roger Troutman lives another 30 years, where California Love leads a new generation straight back to the catalog, where he gets the recognition he was building toward. Where two brothers who built something extraordinary together find a way through whatever broke between them. That version didn't happen. Number 1. TLC.
Realize he hurts us so much.
Lisa Lopes was so many things before she was famous, and she was so many things while she was famous that the fame could barely contain her. She was the rapper, the fire, the one wearing a condom wrapper over her left eye as a statement about safe sex in the early 1990s, before that conversation was anywhere near mainstream. The one who set fire to Andre Rison's house in 1994 and turned a moment of private chaos into a national conversation. Volatile and brilliant and funny and deeply, genuinely complicated in ways that the music never quite let you forget. She was also the one who went to Honduras after Hurricane Mitch in 1998 to help. Not for the cameras. She was drawn to the country, to the people, to something she felt there.
I know that you're gonna have it your way or nothing.
She started building educational centers for Honduran children. She kept going back. She was still there in April 2002, still working, still filming a documentary about her life in that country. TLC was the best-selling American girl group of the 1990s. Creep, Waterfalls, No Scrubs, Unpretty, multiple #1 hits.
But I think you're moving too fast.
Crazy Sexy Cool went diamond, over 10 million copies in the United States alone. T-Boz had the cool and the sex appeal. Chili had the grace. Left Eye had the edge, the unpredictability, the thing that made you lean forward and wonder what was coming. She was also the one who, in 2001, challenged T-Boz and Chili to a solo competition. She wanted to know who the greatest TLC member was. It didn't land well. The group was fraying, things were unresolved. On April 25, 2002, Lisa was driving a rented SUV in La Ceiba, Honduras. She swerved to avoid a collision. The vehicle rolled. There were 4 people in that car. Lisa was the only one who didn't walk away from it. She died instantly. She was 30 years old. The camera that had been rolling for the documentary was still recording when the accident happened. The footage cut off at the moment of impact. T-Boz and Chili finished the album they had been working on. They called it 3D. Left Eye had already contributed to several tracks. She had written the title and designed the visual concept. T-Boz and Chili released it in November 2002 because Left Eye would have wanted them to finish what they started. They are still TLC, they still perform, and when you ask either of them about her, what you hear isn't just grief. It's something bigger.
Stick to the rivers and the lakes that you're used to.
The understanding that some things change the shape of everything around them, and you just have to keep living inside the new shape. Whenever Waterfalls plays, and you're listening close enough, you know exactly where that rap should come in. You know the space. You know who belongs in it. Some of y'all have a specific memory attached to a TLC song, a specific place, a specific moment, a specific person you were with when you first heard it. Drop it in the comments, because I already know those comments are gonna hit different tonight.